The drums were loud, the cameras were bright, and the crowd at Oshodi stood shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the big moment. Tall banners read, "Jerry Foundation, giving hope where it all began." A red carpet cut through the middle of the open space. At the end of it stood Jerry, handsome, proud, and dressed in a navy blue kaftan with gold embroidery and a bright red Igbo cap. He smiled like a king in his new palace. Then the crowd began to whisper. A thin woman in a tattered blue Ankara dress was walking in, barefoot. Her grey and black hair was messy and fell around her face. She leaned on a wooden walking stick, and her eyes were wet with tears. People moved aside as she came closer. Some shook their heads. Some covered their mouths. Jerry saw her and laughed. He held the microphone and pointed right at the woman. "Look who finally made it," he said, his voice loud across the speakers. "The woman who always wants to disturb my life." Gasps, murmurs, cameras turned. A woman beside Jerry, elegant and cold, leaned in with a tiny smile. Her name was Amanda, his fiancée. She squeezed Jerry's arm like she was proud of him. The woman in blue lifted her face. She was Jerry's mother, Amara. Jerry stretched out his free hand like a show host. "Everyone, this is Amara, the mother who never wanted my happiness." His laugh was sharp. "But today, I'm feeling generous. When a foundation opens, we must hire workers, right?" He paused, enjoying the silence. "The last position we filled is very important." He looked down the list on the podium, then raised his head. "Cleaner. The cleaner will be Amara." The crowd gasped so hard it sounded like a wave. Phones rose higher. A baby started to cry. Amanda's smile deepened. Jerry just laughed again, as if he had told the best joke in Lagos. Amara stood still. Then she did something no one expected. She laughed too. It wasn't loud or bitter. It was soft, like rain on a small roof. She stepped forward, lifted her hand, and asked for the microphone. The master of ceremonies froze. Jerry frowned. Amanda whispered, "Don't give it to her." But the crowd began to chant, "Let her speak, let her speak." The chant grew until it shook the speakers. The microphone was placed in Amara's palm. She held it with both hands, close to her lips. "Thank you, my son," she said, her voice gentle but clear. "Thank you for paying me back for the years I carried you, even when I could not carry myself." The crowd leaned in. The cameras pushed closer. Amara's eyes shone. "Jerry," she said, "what you don't know is..." The microphone squealed, and the scene froze like a picture. Years earlier, before the banners and bright lights, before the title, Billionaire, there was only a one-room apartment and the sound of rain at night. Amara was 24 when Emeka, her husband, left for work at the bank one morning and never came back. She called his phone, no answer. She waited by the window, no knock on the door. No letter, no message, nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. In Lagos, stories moved fast, but the truth moved slowly. Some said he had been kidnapped, others said he had run away with another woman. Amara never found out. She had a baby to feed, so she did not allow tears to win. She picked up a sack and went to Oshodi under the bridge. There, among shouting traders and rushing buses, she spread second-hand clothes on a mat. Shirts, dresses, jeans, little school uniforms. She called out prices with a bright voice. When the sun was hot, she tied her scarf tighter and kept selling. When the rain fell, she covered her goods with plastic and smiled anyway. She named her baby boy Jerry. At night, after counting her small profits, Amara would press a kiss on Jerry's forehead and whisper, "My son, I will not marry again. I will face you. I will train you. One day, when you stand tall, you will not bend. You will be a good man. You will remember kindness." She worked like 3 people. She bought more clothes from the market. She learned which sizes sold fast and which colors mothers liked for their children. She saved a little at a time. Sometimes, when a customer paid more by mistake, she ran after them to return the change. People noticed. They trusted her. They came back. A small thing happened that later became a big thing. One night, a church deacon stopped by her mat and said, "Sister Amara, the plot beside our new branch is for sale. It is not expensive now. If you keep saving, you can buy it. One day, it may help your son." Amara looked down at Jerry. He was sleeping on a folded wrapper. She imagined a future she could not see. "I will try," she said. Time walked forward. Jerry grew tall and smart. He studied late and woke early. He talked about the human body like it was a puzzle he could solve. He won science prizes. His teachers called him Dr. Jerry for fun, then not for fun. On the day he got into the University of Nigeria, Amara bought Puff Puff for every child on their street. "God did it," she said, laughing like a girl. School was expensive. Life was harder. Amara did not change her promise. She sold more. She saved more. When prices rose, she adjusted, never quitting. She bought small pieces of land when she could thin strips, odd corners, nothing fancy. For his future, she told herself. For his future. Jerry graduated as the best medical student. He got a job at the best private hospital in Lagos. His hands were sure. His brain was calm. He worked on difficult cases, brain tumors, cancer of the eyes, even co-joined twins. People cried with joy in waiting rooms. People called him a miracle. The news wrote about him. The country watched him. Then the climb became a race. Jerry opened his own hospital. It was tall and bright, with glass walls that looked like water. He started a company to sell medical equipment. In 2 years, his face was on magazines. In 3, he was called Billionaire. He wore suits that shone. He drove cars that hummed. He moved into a mansion on Banana Island, where the air felt different from the city. Somewhere in the noise of success, his phone stopped picking certain calls. "Jerry, it's Mama," Amara would say into the silence. "I just wanted to hear your voice, my son. I made jollof. I can bring..." Beep. The line ended. He began to say she disturbed him. He told someone who told someone that his mother did not want his happiness. He started to believe it. Amanda stood beside him, then beautiful, polished, never a hair out of place. She pressed ideas into his ear, the way a tailor presses cloth. "Your mother is not what she seems," she whispered. "Be careful, she is bad luck." The day the invitation came, it did not come from Jerry. A delivery rider knocked on Amara's door in the outskirts of town. He handed her a white envelope with gold letters. Inside was a card, Jerry Foundation Launch Osho. Her eyes stopped at the word Oshodi. She smiled without meaning to. The place that had given her work, food, and hope. "He remembers," she said softly. "He is giving back." She opened her box and looked at her clothes. Most were old. She lifted the blue ankara she wore on hard days. The hem was torn. The color was fading. Her slippers had cracked last week. She touched her hair and felt how rough it was. She breathed in and out, long and slow. Then she did something strange. She chose the blue dress. She picked up her walking stick. She left her feet bare. "You are going like that?" her neighbor asked, shocked. Amara smiled. "Today is not about what I wear," she said. "Today is about who my son is." Oshodi was louder than ever that morning. Music shook the ground. The new foundation building stood clean and white, like a promise finally kept. People from TV stations parked trucks by the curb. Street boys climbed poles to see better. The master of ceremonies cracked jokes that made the market women laugh and clap. Then Jerry arrived with Amanda, walking like he owned the road. When Amara stepped onto the red carpet, the world seemed to move in slow motion. She saw her son's face. It was handsome, serious, and hard. She saw the way Amanda looked at her, like a teacher who had found a child breaking rules. She saw the crowd change shape to let her pass. She heard her son's laugh. "Cleaner," he said into the microphone. "The cleaner will be Amara." For a moment, everything in Amara's long life pressed into her chest. The night Emeka never came home, the first sale under the bridge, the tiny coins she had counted again and again, the land papers she kept in a tin box under her bed, the way Jerry used to fall asleep while reading, mouth open, book on his chest. She remembered the promise she made to herself. Face your son, train your son. One day he will not bend. He had bent. She took the microphone. "Thank you, my son," she said. "Thank you for paying me back for the years I carried you." The crowd was so quiet that even the buses seemed to wait. "Jerry," she said, her voice suddenly strong. "What you don't know is this the land where you built this foundation." She stopped. Amanda's smile slipped. Jerry blinked. The master of ceremonies reached for the volume knob. Amara lifted her chin. Belongs to me. The crowd exploded. For a heartbeat, Oshodi held its breath. Amara's words rolled over the crowd like thunder. The land where you built this foundation, she said into the microphone, belongs to me. Noise burst out. Some people shouted. Some laughed in surprise. Others clapped without knowing they were clapping. The master of ceremonies dropped his cue cards. The band stopped drumming. Even the buses on the main road seemed to slow down. Jerry stood still on the red carpet, as if his feet were glued there. He tried to smile, but it broke at the edges. Amanda's face went tight. She pressed her fingers into Jerry's arm. She's lying, Amanda whispered. She wants attention. Don't let her win. Amara didn't look angry. She looked tired and sure. She lifted the microphone again. Jerry, when I heard you wanted to build a foundation here in Oshodi, I was happy. This place fed me when I had nothing. I told the community leader to call you. I gave him the land for free, and I said, please do not mention my name. I wanted your good work to shine, not mine. She turned to the side and pointed with her walking stick. Chief Fatai, you are here. Please come. From the front row, a broad-shouldered man in a native cap stood up. People knew him. He was the respected community leader who settled fights and kept the market peaceful. He climbed the stage with slow steps, holding a brown envelope. He bowed to the crowd, then spoke into the second microphone. What Mama Amara said is true, he said simply. His voice was deep and calm. She came to me herself. She told me to call Dr. Jerry and make it easy for him. She paid for the papers. She asked me to keep her name quiet so that God would bless the work, not the giver. He held up the envelope. These are copies of the documents. Her name is on them. Cameras flashed like lightning. The front row buzzed. A TV reporter raised her hand. Can we see the name? She asked. Chief Fatai nodded. He slid out a photocopy and passed it to the master of ceremonies, who lifted it high. The bold letters were clear. Amara Nnenna Okafor, owner. A sound like a wave moved through the crowd again. This time the wave was respect. Amanda leaned in closer to Jerry. It's a trick, she hissed. We can fight this. Call the lawyer. Call security. Take the mic from her. Jerry didn't move. Amara's voice did not shake. My son, she said, it is not only this place. Do you remember the land where your big hospital stands today? The church gave it to you, free of charge, when you needed it. You thanked them many times. She took a breath. I owned that land too. I gave it to the church and begged them to give it to you, and to hide my name. I wanted you to stand tall. A soft cry came from the second row. An older pastor in a white collar stood up with two other church elders. They walked to the stage, hands raised, not to fight but to agree. The pastor spoke into the microphone. We testify, he said. Mama Amara came to us quietly with the title. She told us, give it to the boy. Do not call my name. We honored her wish. Jerry's hands fell to his sides. He looked at the pastor. He looked at Chief Fatai. He looked at his mother. Amanda tried to laugh, but it felt wrong in the air. This is drama, she said, waving at the reporters. Old people love stories. It doesn't mean anything. Amara kept going, each word steady. I bought many small lands when you were still in school. They were cheap then. I bought them because I had a dream for you. Today, I still have 10 more lands inside this city. Those 10 alone are worth more than everything you think you own, my son. I chose to look poor because that is the life I know. Simple food, simple room, simple peace. But poor is not my name. The market women began to cheer. The men in kaftans nodded. Some of the street boys put their hands on their hearts. They had seen this woman sell clothes in the sun and rain. Now they saw her strength like a bright flag. Jerry's voice finally came, but it was small. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Amara's eyes softened. Because I wanted you to grow without feeling like you owed me the world. I wanted you to be kind by choice, not by debt. Amanda clapped slowly, the sound sharp and cold. Beautiful speech, she said. But what kind of mother hides and lets her son think she is nothing? What kind of mother walks in barefoot and messy to embarrass him on his big day? This is not love. This is a game. Amara turned her head and looked at Amanda. There was no hate in her face, only a deep, sad calm. "My daughter," she said, "love is not a game, and truth is not a knife. It is a lamp." Amanda's smile cracked. "Security," she snapped. "End this. Take the microphone. We need to continue the program." Two security men started toward the stage. Before they could reach, a woman broke from the side of the crowd, elderly, in Ankara, tears on her face. She called out, "Mama Amara, tell them about the day you paid for my son's surgery." Another voice rose, "Tell them how you gave me money to start my pure water business." Another, "Tell them how you bought school books for my twins." The voices stacked on one another like bricks, building a wall of truth that security could not push through. The two guards looked at Jerry, waiting for his signal. Jerry did not lift his hand. His eyes were wet now. He looked at his mother, really looked past the tired dress, past the messy hair. He saw the woman who had stood in rain to sell baby shirts so he could have notebooks. He saw the tiny lines at the corners of her mouth, from years of smiling, even when life was not kind. He saw the walking stick, and remembered the nights she carried him on her back when he fell asleep on the bus. He put his hand over his mouth. His shoulders began to shake. Amanda grabbed his wrist. "No," she said under her breath. "Don't you dare. Think of the cameras. Think of your name. Think of me." Jerry gently took his hand away. He walked toward his mother. The red carpet felt heavy under his feet. The world went quiet again, like it was waiting to see if rain would fall or the sun would come out. When Jerry reached her, he did not speak. He bent his knees. The red cap slipped. His forehead touched the carpet. A shout rose from the crowd, but it was not mocking. It was joy and shock mixed together, like a drum and a bell ringing at the same time. Amanda stood frozen, her mouth open. She looked small now, not because of her height, but because the truth was taller than her. "Forgive me, Mama," Jerry said, his voice breaking. "Please. I forgot who I was. I forgot who you are. I let lies sit in my heart." Amara's hands shook as she tried to pull him up. "My son, stand. Please stand." He stayed on his knees. Tears dropped from his face to the carpet. The red cap rolled to the side. The master of ceremonies wiped his eyes with his sleeve. The band members stood, holding their drums like gifts they did not know how to give. Amanda took a quick step forward, eyes bright with anger. "Jerry, stop this. You're embarrassing us." "Enough," Jerry said quietly, without looking at her. Amanda's jaw tightened. She looked at the cameras. She forced a smile for them, but her eyes were flames. Amara touched Jerry's head the way she used to when he was a boy. "I forgive you," she whispered. "I forgive you today, and I would forgive you again tomorrow. A mother's heart is a wide road. Walk back on it." He looked up at her through tears. "Thank you, Mama." The cheer that followed rolled all the way down the street. People hugged each other. Strangers shook hands. Men wiped their faces and pretended it was the sun. Women lifted children up so they could see the moment. The pastor clapped slowly, smiling like he had seen a prayer answered right there on the red carpet. For a few seconds, everything was light. Then Amara raised the microphone one more time. "There is one more truth," she said softly, but the words carried far. "It is about your father." The crowd hushed so fast it felt like the wind stopped. Jerry's smile faded. He stood up, eyes searching hers. "My father?" Amara nodded. "Yes. The day he left, what happened? And where he went?" A voice cut through the speakers from the back of the crowd. A man shouted, "Make way! Please make way!" Heads turned, people stepped aside. A thin figure in a faded suit pushed forward, face pale, eyes wide. He stopped at the edge of the red carpet, staring at Amara like he had seen a ghost. The crowd whispered all at once, "Emeka?" For a moment, the entire crowd seemed to forget to breathe. The man on the edge of the red carpet stood frozen, his shoulders hunched slightly as if the weight of the years was pressing them down. His faded grey suit hung loose on his frame. His shoes were worn, the leather cracked. His face was older, lined with deep creases, but there was no mistaking those eyes, dark, alert, and filled with something between fear and longing. Amara's hand tightened around her walking stick. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Jerry's voice was barely above a whisper. "Dad?" A ripple went through the crowd. People craned their necks, murmuring to each other, "I thought he was dead." They said he ran away with another woman. Could it really be him? Emeka took one shaky step forward, then another, until he stood fully on the red carpet. His gaze shifted from Amara's face to Jerry's, and he swallowed hard. "It's me," he said, his voice rough and dry. "It's your father." The cameras turned, flashes exploding. The reporters leaned in, sensing the story was about to take a new twist. Jerry's jaw tightened. "You vanished. You left us with nothing. For years, Mama worked herself to the bone to raise me. Do you know what she went through?" Emeka's eyes glistened. "I know," he said softly. "I've lived with that guilt every single day." Amara's voice cut through, sharper now. "Guilt? Guilt is when you make a mistake and try to fix it. Her voice shook. "You left. You never called. You never wrote. You let us believe you were dead." Emeka's head bowed. "Because I thought I would be. Amara, that day I left for work. I was taken." The crowd murmured louder. Jerry's brow furrowed. "Taken? By who?" Emeka's hands trembled as he tried to explain. "Men came into the bank that morning. It was a robbery, but not just for money. They had a list of names. I was one of them. I never knew why. They forced me into a car, drove me for hours. I woke up in another state. They kept me for months, no ransom demand, no news of where I was. I thought maybe they'd kill me, but then..." He stopped, eyes darting briefly toward the ground. Something else happened. "What happened?" Jerry pressed. Emeka's lips trembled. "They let me go. But not here. They left me across the border, in a small town where I knew no one. I had nothing, no phone, no papers. And I couldn't find a way back." Amanda stepped forward, crossing her arms. "What a convenient story. Missing for decades, and suddenly you appear the moment the cameras are on." Some in the crowd murmured in agreement, but others glared at her. Emeka shook his head. "I tried, for years, to make it home. I worked odd jobs, saved little by little. But when I finally got close, I heard rumors that Amara had moved on, that she'd raised Jerry into a man without me. I thought, maybe they didn't need me anymore." Amara's voice was low but full of steel. "And instead of finding out the truth, you stayed away?" "I was ashamed," Emeka admitted, his voice breaking. "I thought if I appeared, you would spit in my face. I thought my son would hate me." Jerry's face was unreadable, but his fists were clenched. "You were right about one thing," he said coldly. "I did hate you. For a long time. Because every night I'd hear Mama cry when she thought I was asleep. I blamed you for every struggle we faced." Emeka took a step closer, desperation in his voice. "Jerry, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you both to know I never stopped thinking about you." Amanda rolled her eyes and muttered loud enough for the front rows to hear. "Pathetic." But Jerry wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at his mother. "Mama," he said quietly. "Did you know? Did you ever hear from him?" Amara's eyes softened, and she hesitated before answering. "Once," she admitted. "About 5 years after you left, a letter came. No return address. It was only 2 lines. 'I'm alive. I'm sorry. I thought it was a cruel prank.' I burned it." Gasps went through the crowd. Emeka closed his eyes, pain etched deep on his face. "That was me. I risked sending it through a driver I met, but I didn't dare put my name on the outside." The tension on the stage was thick. The crowd leaned in as if they could pull the next words out by sheer will. Then, from somewhere near the back, a loud voice shouted, "Tell them the rest, Emeka. Tell them why they took you." Every head turned. A tall, muscular man in a leather jacket pushed through the crowd. His face was unfamiliar to most, but the way Emeka's eyes widened made it clear this man knew more than anyone else here. The man stepped onto the edge of the red carpet, his gaze locked on Emeka. "Or should I tell them for you?" The crowd erupted into a low roar, sensing another shock was coming. Jerry glanced between his parents and the stranger, his pulse pounding. "Who are you?" Jerry demanded. The man smiled faintly. "Let's just say, I was there the day your father disappeared, and I know it wasn't just a robbery." The air seemed to tighten around them. "What do you mean?" Amara asked sharply. The man's eyes darkened. "I mean, your husband knew something. Something about the bank. something that could destroy very powerful people, and those people made sure he vanished. The crowd gasped again. Reporters leaned so far forward, their microphones nearly touched the ground. Jerry's heart pounded. "What are you talking about? What secret?" The man glanced at Emeka. "Should I tell them, or will you?" Emeka's mouth opened, but no sound came. His eyes darted nervously toward Amanda, then to the cameras. Amara's grip tightened on her walking stick. "Emeka," she said in a low, warning tone, "if there's more, say it now." Emeka's lips trembled. "If I say it, none of us will be safe." The crowd reacted with a collective gasp. Jerry took a step forward. "Safe from who?" Before Emeka could answer, a black SUV screeched to a halt at the far end of the street. Its tinted windows glinted under the harsh Lagos sun. The rear door opened slowly. A man in a dark suit stepped out, wearing sunglasses, his expression unreadable. Two more men followed, scanning the crowd. The stranger in the leather jacket smirked. "Looks like they already know we're talking." Amara's heart pounded. She didn't know who these men were, but she could feel danger in the way they moved. The suited man began walking toward the stage. The crowd murmured in panic, and Jerry felt something he hadn't felt in years: fear. The black SUV's engine was still humming when the man in the dark suit reached the red carpet. He moved with a calm, deliberate stride, his polished shoes barely making a sound. The sunglasses hid his eyes, but the air around him was sharp, like a knife wrapped in silk. Two other men followed, their hands tucked inside their jackets. The crowd, sensing something dangerous, stepped back. The chatter died down until only the sound of distant traffic and camera clicks remained. Amara's walking stick pressed harder against the carpet. Jerry instinctively shifted closer to her, even though moments earlier he had humiliated her. The stranger in the leather jacket just folded his arms, watching the suited man approach like he'd been expecting him all along. The man in the suit stopped at the edge of the stage. His voice was low, but it carried. "Dr. Jerry, Madam Amara, Mr. Emeka, it's been a long time." Emeka stiffened. His hands trembled slightly. "I told you. I wanted nothing more to do with this." The man's head tilted. "And yet, here you are, standing in front of cameras, talking about things best forgotten." Jerry's confusion grew. "Who are you? What is going on here?" The man's faint smile didn't reach his lips. "Let's just say, I represent certain interests. Interests that would prefer your father's past remain exactly where it belongs in the dark." Amara's eyes narrowed. "And if we don't?" The man glanced at her for a moment, and though his face didn't change, there was something cold in his silence. "It would be unfortunate," he finally said, "for everyone here." The leather jacket man stepped forward, placing himself between the suited man and Jerry's family. "You're not scaring anyone. Not today." The suited man's lips twitched, almost amused. "Still the hero, are we?" He turned back to Emeka. "You've already been warned once. You know what's at stake if you talk." Jerry's voice rose. "Warned about what?" Emeka's shoulders slumped, and his voice was barely above a whisper. "Jerry, the bank I worked for wasn't just a bank. They were laundering money. Big amounts. Politicians, powerful business people, some of the same ones who fund hospitals and charities across this country. I found evidence, names, numbers. I made the mistake of speaking to the wrong person. That's why they took me." The crowd gasped again, the sound like a sudden rush of wind. The man in the suit's smile disappeared. "You've said too much." He gave a sharp nod. The two men behind him stepped forward. The leather jacket man moved faster. "You're not touching them." The air on the stage thickened. The market women in the crowd began pulling their children away. The TV reporters kept their cameras steady, their voices hushed into microphones. Amanda, who had been silent for a few minutes, suddenly stepped forward with a trembling but calculating voice. "Maybe we can make a deal. I'm sure Jerry and his family want this to end without trouble." Amara shot her a sharp look. "A deal with people like this is just another kind of chain." The suited man ignored Amanda and looked at Jerry. "Doctor, you have influence. You have the trust of the public. Keep your family quiet, and your life remains comfortable. Defy us." And he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jerry's fists clenched. "You think you can just walk in here, threaten my mother, threaten my father, and I'll obey?" You don't know me. The man in the suit smirked faintly. We know you better than you think. He turned as if to leave, but then paused. By the way, congratulations on your engagement. I hear the wedding is in 2 months. His gaze shifted to Amanda, and there was something in that look, something that made Jerry's stomach twist. Amanda's eyes flickered, but she quickly looked away. Jerry caught it. What was that? Amanda, do you know these people? Amanda froze. Jerry. Before she could finish, the man in the suit interrupted. We'll be in touch. He gave another small nod, and his men followed him back to the SUV. The engine roared, and they were gone as quickly as they had come. The tension lingered like a shadow. The leather jacket man exhaled slowly. They won't stop. They've already let too much slip. Amara touched Jerry's arm. My son, this is bigger than us. But you can't run from truth forever. Jerry was still looking at Amanda, his mind replaying that flicker in her eyes. We'll talk. Now. Amanda shook her head, her voice rising. Jerry, please. The leather jacket man cut in. You want the truth? Start by asking her why she met with those men 2 weeks ago. The crowd gasped again, a ripple of murmurs spreading like fire. Amanda's face drained of color. That's not what you think. Jerry stepped back, his breathing heavy. Then tell me what it is. Before Amanda could speak, Emeka's phone, an old, battered thing, buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, frowning. It's unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was calm, deep, and chilling. Emeka, you have until midnight to decide if you want your family safe. If you're still in Lagos by sunrise tomorrow, we will come for all of you. Emeka's hand shook as he slowly lowered the phone. What did they say? Jerry demanded. Emeka's eyes moved to his son, to Amara, then to Amanda. We have less than 12 hours. The leather jacket man's jaw tightened. Then we need to get you somewhere safe now. But even as he spoke, the sound of engines revving in the distance grew louder. Not one, not two, but several. Jerry's heart pounded. They're already here, aren't they? The leather jacket man glanced toward the street, then back at the family. Run. The sound of engines grew into a roar. The crowd scattered, pulling carts, grabbing children, leaving half-folded market stalls behind. Women clutched their headscarves, men shoved through the throng, and the once celebratory red carpet became a funnel of panic. 4 black SUVs turned the corner in a tight convoy, engines growling, tires spitting gravel. The vehicles rolled toward the stage like a moving wall, their tinted windows hiding the faces inside. The leather jacket man, sweat now glistening on his forehead, shoved Jerry toward the back of the foundation building. Go! Through the service door. Jerry grabbed Amara's hand. Mama, stay close to me. Amara, her walking stick tapping fast against the ground, kept pace despite the chaos. Emeka was right behind, looking over his shoulder with every other step. Amanda trailed, heels clicking, her voice breaking. Jerry, I didn't. Not now, Jerry barked, dragging her forward. Behind them, shouts erupted. The SUVs screeched to a stop, and doors slammed open. Men in dark clothing spilled out 6, maybe 8. They didn't yell. They didn't push through the crowd. They moved with frightening precision, forming 2 lines as if they had practiced this. They're not ordinary hired muscle, the leather jacket man muttered, glancing back. These are trained. They burst into the service corridor of the foundation building. Fluorescent lights buzzed above. The air smelled of fresh paint and floor polish. Keep moving, the leather jacket man ordered, pushing a heavy metal door that led to the back alley. As soon as the door swung open, the smell of diesel and smoke hit them. A delivery truck was idling there, back doors open. Inside, the man said. It'll take you to a safe house. No questions until we're moving. Jerry hesitated, looking at his father. Do you trust him? Emeka met his eyes. If it's him or them, I trust him. Amanda stepped forward. Jerry, I can explain everything once we... The man in the leather jacket spun, glaring at her. No talking. Not now. We move. They climbed in Amara first, Jerry helping her, then Emeka, Amanda, and finally Jerry. The leather jacket man slammed the doors shut and thumped the wall twice. The truck jolted forward. Inside, it was dim and cramped, the smell of old wood and dust filling the space. No windows, only a small grate for air. The engine's rumble drowned most outside noise, but every so often, faint sirens wailed somewhere far behind. For a few minutes, no one spoke. Jerry's hand still gripped his mother's tightly, as if letting go would make her vanish. Then Emeka broke the silence. They won't stop. The files I saw back then, they weren't just about laundering money. There were records of people missing people. Their names never showed up anywhere again. Amara's voice was low, trembling. You mean? He nodded. I think they were eliminating anyone who knew too much. And the longer we stay in Lagos, the closer we get to being next. Amanda finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. Jerry, I met them once. Just once. It was before we got engaged. They approached me, said they were friends of your father. They wanted to know how close you were to him, how much you talked about your family. I didn't think it mattered. I didn't know who they were until today. Jerry's eyes darkened. And you never told me. I thought it was nothing, Amanda said, looking down. I was wrong. The leather jacket man's voice cut through. We'll be at the safe house in 10 minutes. Once you're inside, you can't leave until I say so. They'll expect you to run. But I know how they think. We'll stay put until they give up the chase. Jerry turned to him. You still haven't told us who you are. The man gave a small smirk. Let's just say, I was one of them once. I left when I realized they'd rather kill than keep their secrets. The truck swerved sharply, throwing everyone against the walls. Tires screeched outside. They found us early, the man muttered. From the grate, Jerry could see the flash of headlights closing in. The leather jacket man banged on the cabin wall. Step on it. The driver floored the accelerator, the truck rattling like it might shake apart. Amara closed her eyes and began to pray under her breath. Jerry pulled her closer. The leather jacket man looked at Emeka. If you still have anything from that bank, now is the time to tell me. Emeka reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin flash drive wrapped in old tape. This is all I could take before they grabbed me. I don't even know if it still works. The man took it, slipping it into his pocket. If this has what I think it has, they'll never stop hunting us. But it might also be the only way to end them. The truck roared down a side street. Shouts echoed outside, but the engines behind them began to fade. For now, the leather jacket man exhaled. We'll make it to the safe house. But after that, you'll have to decide whether you want to hide forever or burn their empire to the ground. Jerry's jaw tightened. If they come for my family again, we burn it. The truck slowed, then stopped. The rear doors creaked open to reveal a dimly lit courtyard behind an unmarked building. This is it, the man said. Welcome to your new home for now. Amara stepped down first, her walking stick tapping softly on the cement. Jerry followed, keeping her close. Emeka climbed out slowly, scanning the shadows. Amanda stood at the doorway for a moment, then stepped down without meeting Jerry's eyes. The leather jacket man shut the doors and looked at them all. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow, we decide how this ends. Jerry looked at his mother, then at his father. For the first time in years, they were all in the same place, but the night around them felt heavy. Because somewhere in the dark, the men in black suits were still watching, and they weren't done. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.